All right, let's go to the old board again because we've got a phenomenal game with some interesting tactics from the great Akiba Rubinstein, who just missed the world chess throne, and Frank Marshall, who was absolutely one of the top 10. He was known as the Swindler. Let's see if he can swindle Rubinstein. Rubinstein's going to be playing the white pieces. Let's go to the board. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6. Could see an interesting opening here. Knight C3, knight F6. We do see an interesting opening, and it's going to give us the four knights. I don't know if I've shown games with the four knights yet. Bishop B5. So this might be one of the first ones. Bishop B5, there's no pin yet. He hasn't pushed the pawn, but that's usually where they put the bishop. Bishop B5 and bishop B4, putting the knight. So you notice the symmetrical aspect of this game. They're both going to castle, so it's still symmetrical. Now, there's nothing technically wrong with playing an opening just exactly like your opponent if you're playing black, but this only goes so far, and then you can get into trouble. How far? We don't know just yet, but we're going to find out. D3, D6. It's still very symmetrical here. Now, the symmetry is broken because Marshall wants to attack the wing. Now, look, and technically that may not be an attack. It could be just a developing move. But on the other hand, if it is an attempt at an attack, the first thing we ask ourselves when an opponent begins to attack us, where do you want to look? Center of the board. Good. You in the back that raised your hand and answered that question without my authorizing you. Good job. Okay, so the center is solid from both of them. It really is. So having that solid center, if one or the other wing was to be attacked, whoever was doing the attacking, it would probably be fine. However, the downside, if you begin to attack, is it's somewhat early because you've still got pieces on their home base. You've still got pieces on their home base. So theoretically, possibly an attack, but realistically, a development. Now, bishop e3, bringing out the other bishop fundamentally. So now Marshall is the first one to begin an attack move. And it's obvious he's gonna come into here so that he can attack the king side. From here, he can hit the knight. Realistically, the knight's going to see, there's just not enough yet. Now, he's moving the same piece twice. You haven't bumped your queen to whatever square you need her at, right? Moving the queen connects your rooks. You haven't opened up files yet in order to bring the rooks to the files. So this is a little early. It's a little early, right? So really, if you were playing white, you would say, oh, hooey, I fear not your insolent ridiculousness with this phony attack of that knight, right? So nothing to fear. Let's see how Rubinstein responds. He says, forget that noise. I'm taking this knight. Now, that was a very important knight, because it is hitting here and here and here and here, right? He was supporting the bishop. Now, nothing's attacking the bishop, but it's out there in the middle of La La Land, unprotected. You always want to keep your eyes open for the unprotected piece because that's where tactics can play a very, very important role in your game. And the bee will take the c6. And interesting maneuver here. Rubinstein brings his knight down to e1 and d5. Okay, so we're building up the tension. The center pawns are opposing now, and they're trying to figure out. And I mean, both of these guys are so vastly well aware that it's best to put the rooks on an open file. There's no question. Now, black does have a partial open file. Center open files are nice too, and I do believe the pawn push is going to help accomplish that goal. And what that'll do is it will facilitate the complete development of the players. So that's not a bad move, is what I'm trying to tell you. And this pin, and quite frankly, both pieces on that side, annoying. So, and nothing wrong in saying annoying, scram. And so he does. And Marshall will put his bishop on e6, not a bad square. About the only other square he can go to. To go any further back is really a waste of time, so don't do it. So, what makes this game so cool and interesting is, in some respects, the way I was taught chess, and based on the information and the literature that I've read, this strategy of Rubinstein isn't something I would have thought of, because he castled the king. Watch what he does. Kablam! Rubinstein said, look, a knight's over here. Look, a bishop's over here. Look, I can push a pawn and chase the bishop away. Look, I can push another pawn and chase the pesky knight away. Yeah, baby. I like that strategy. But it's the pawns in front of the king. And Rubinstein doesn't appear to feel at all concerned with that. So the only reason you would be concerned is if the center was open. So the bishop really has absolutely nowhere to go. Thunk, thunk, thunk. So a bishop's not going to come crashing through. The queen isn't even off her main post, right? She's still sitting home having tea and crackers with the king, who has sat down with the rook, and they're trying to talk strategy. So there's no danger through the center. So, and again, like I say, Rubinstein's so vastly superior to any of us. It's just interesting to me to see that he went ahead and chose his kingside attack, the beginning of his kingside attack, by throwing his pawns up on the side that the king castled. It's not something I was told to ever be comfortable with doing. And yet we see one of the world's greats doing so, and it makes for a splendiferous game. It really does. So knight f6. So, and just so that we keep it in mind, the pawn pushes have been very effective. And yes, remember, every time you move a pawn forward, you leave weak squares behind. When that pawn was there, it was fine. Moving it here takes away its influence here. So that's a weaker square. It's not a totally weak square because you got this squirt here, right? But moving it up does weaken that square some. Well, pushing this guy too, now we can see, aha, The pawn is weak. And you say it is not. The king's guarding it. The pawn is weak, and so are the dark squares. So this guy, maybe Marshall wants to hang on to him because he can exploit those dark squares. This is why you're not supposed to push the pawns in front of the king who is castled, right? So let's see what happens. And yeah, the knight. But what I was trying to say is each pawn push has pushed back the bishop. The other pawn push has pushed back the knight. And look at how it has diminished their power in the game. Just recognize that. That's a very important, really kind of cool lesson. Now, watch where Rubinstein goes. Knight g3. So it is true. Castle king, throwing the pawns up, leaves weak squares. The knight takes care of it. However, that's not why he's putting that knight there. He is definitely in kingside attack mode. I mean, you recognize it. The bishop is pointing. The queen can easily jump up here as he pushes more pawns. Neither of the pawns are blockaded, right? So they can keep going too. And they're battering rams, man. Those can really do a lot of damage if they get all the way up to that other castle king. In the meantime, they can push back pieces, which in turn may start crowding him. And so he can't maneuver as well. That's the other really huge advantage of pushing the pawns is it does give you kingside space. The rule, if you throw the pawns up against a castle king, is back them up with pieces. This is what we're beginning to see. As they advance, the bishop too will be backing them up. The rook is backing. So this is interesting. Knight g3 is a very cool move. And now d4. D4, and there's a kind of an iffy, you say, yeah, not really. Now, okay, so here's another really cool thing to be cognizant of. That's the word of the day, cognizant. Tell me in the remarks what you think it means. Don't put the bishop back here. One, it's in the way of the rook. The rook's back in that pawn, and the pawn is free to move up on that F file, right? Don't put the bishop there. You're not interested in bishop safety that bad. No, wrong direction. Rubinstein finds the correct direction. And you say, yeah, but the bishop has, that's right. He does. Trade off that bishop. If nothing else, if he doesn't see it, and this is Frank Marshall, he sees it. But he'll either move back or exchange the bishop. Bishop d2 and bishop e7. So he did bring back. So observe something remarkably interesting, and it's just, it happens this way. This is kind of the nature of how chess works. The pawn push, the bishop came back. The pawn push, the knight fell back. The bishop relocating, the bishop falls back. The position of the black is somewhat cramped. Not bad, but somewhat cramped and defensive, and therefore he doesn't have the initiative. All because of the pawn pushes. The activity of the pieces is roughly equal. Black may still even be more active. He's got a better development temporarily at this point. And now Here comes the other knight. Get the other knight involved here. And rook b8. Okay, yeah. Who didn't see that one? Right. Come on. A half open file all by your lonesome. Yeah, go get that file. That There we go. That file is a sweet file. Right. Gives you target on b2. Absolutely. So rook b8 and b3. Just take care of it. And the other nice thing that this little bump does is it severely limits the very bad bishop. Uh, and actually, both of the bishops are bad. Now, that doesn't mean they're not useful, but they really are not pointing toward the king side. But maybe they don't have to be. Observe the open files on the queen side. And he does have it. And he is so, I say open, I should say half open. And both those bishops are pointing on the queen side. So is it going to surprise us at all if Frank Marshall comes over to the queen side and tries to win the game on the queen side? No. No surprise there. That will be obvious. And he proceeds to continue. Now, the weakness with the doubling of the pawns, especially the square in front, is the weak one. So the c5. However, it didn't get blockaded. That is, a piece did not get put in front of it to stop its progress. That's a blockade. So the pawns are weakest if they're blockaded, and the guy in front is the best of the targets. However, if you can advance the pawns, look what this does. It gives a tremendous solidity to his central pawn, his only central pawn. Now look at this wedge, and it's interesting that it is backed up by the pieces, right? So that's a good center, and that could make a difference. So this is really fun to see how these two fantastic giants are fighting. Observe that gaining the center helps both players, not just one of them. Essentially, Marshall has locked the center. So there's got to be wing play. And of course, Rubinstein is obviously set up for kingside. So Marshall is obviously going to go to the queen side. Who gets there first is the real question. Nice that there's the beautiful outpost. Now, it's not a permanent outpost, but at this point, it's affecting the position. Hitting here, G7, hitting here, E7. So you got to do something about that. You truly do. So it's okay. And you say, yeah, I like my bishops better than the knights. Bishops are slightly better. I get all that. That knight is too strong on the outpost. It's okay. Take it out. Sincerely, it's all good. So it is even worth exchanging when it's in that kind of a position. Now, if the knight had just barely come out and you've got a bishop way up here and you take that knight with the bishop, that would be a horrific blunder. The knight's a pipsqueak down here, and he hasn't barely started, and you've got that bishop holding that wonderful diagonal. Man, don't ever trade that bishop for that knight unless it's absolutely essential. 99% of the cases, it won't be. This is an entirely different situation. I'm just kind of half elaborating. Okay, so because he had the outpost and because he used his piece, Marshall was forced to trade the bishop for the knight, and the pawn structure of Rubinstein even gets him more space. I just want you to observe that. This is really kind of a cool situation. G takes F5, and now rook B, rook B6. Okay, you're on the partial open file. For Pete's sake, use it. You know, when you get in your car and you get on a road, drive down the road, right? So don't just sit there in the car gawking. Turn it on and let's go for a trip, right? So here we go. Rook b6. And you can see immediately how that, rather than just leaving it there, commanding this partly open file, now, man, you can just see the increase of power and influence just to observe. So pushing that guy to there is a wonderful move. Yeah. Yeah. Do things like that. Do things like that. Whoop. And don't drop your pen in the process of giving a chess lesson. Rook f2, bumping up, just making sure that getting developed, ready to double up the rooks, perhaps, because they both know we've got to get our rooks involved. And what are we seeing? We're seeing all of the ideas of why they need to get their rooks involved, and we're seeing that they're getting the rooks involved. That's good chess, man. I'm just saying. Queen d7, okay. Not an over magnificent lightning thunder glorious development, putting the queen on a majestic, wonderful square, but nonetheless a solid move, getting the queen in the game. That is important. So do that. Good chess so far. And queen e2, right. And you say, yeah, but doesn't he kind of crowd his pieces? All right, legit point. Yeah, but develop anyway. Develop is really important. Rook FB8. Now, come on. Who didn't see that, right? Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to get a battle on both wings, and this is going to be a doozy. They've both been gearing up for this. Let's see how they handle it. Just a moment ago, I said, yeah, but moving the queen in, doesn't that kind of crowd the family around the dining table too much? You don't have any elbow room, for Pete's sake. Good point. What's the solution? To move back? No. No. You put him up there for a reason. Leave him there. Bump the pawn. Remember, pawn moves forward, either side. Pawn moves forward, give you better space, which help you get better coordination with your pieces. Look at that wonderful space black has. Look at that wonderful space on the king side that white has. Look at that wonderful space on the queen side. That's important. Okay, so f4 is a very excellent move. It's also going to open up lines. E will take the f, and bishop will take the f, grabbing a sweet diagonal, man. That's a woohoo diagonal right there. That's nice. Rubinstein had to be happy with that. Watch. Okay, so all right, look, this dude's trying to start and taking over all my influence on my side. Shouldn't I do something about that bishop? I mean, for Pete's sake, he's starting to act huffy with me. Shouldn't I try to attack that? Shouldn't I bump my pawn, or could I go here and swap off that bishop and all that? Yeah, you can do all that, or you can do what Frank Marshall did. Ignore that and do your own thing. You're on an attack, you got to carry it out. That is the best strategy. Because otherwise, okay, if he had said, okay, look, I've got to do something about that bishop, man. So he starts working on either exchanging it or forcing it back down, he would be reacting to Rubinstein. In other words, he would be playing reactionary chess, which is passive chess. He has a plan over here to attack and win. Carry out that plan and that puts you in the driver's seat. Okay, so Marshall did that extremely well. And quite frankly, that's a great bishop on a great diagonal. And yet Marshall says, nope, I have two rooks on a splendiferous partial open file. And he's not kidding. So this is going to be good. Now the B will take the C4. Now the file is completely open. Access to the king, please. And now he's got it. And Frank Marshall is a very dangerous attacker. What did I just say? Marshall is a very dangerous attacker. Look, once he takes it and the file is open and you're doubled, attack, for crying out loud. That's what we see going on. And you say, yeah, but wait, BYP. All he's going to do is take him. Yeah, all right, he took him. He took him. Check. Yeah, so check, and he took him. And all he's going to do is take him. Check. Yeah. Okay. And all he's going to do now is bump back and block the check. And you say, so they swapped rooks for what purpose? Because a rook on your second rank is deadly, just like a rook of yours on their second rank, if you could get a rook in here, is really deadly. So look at the power of that rook. That's a nice rook, right? So here we go. What happens? E5. Once again, I know I say this every video because it happens every chess game, the good chess game. Frank Marshall is doing a really good wing attack. There's no question about that. What's the proper response to a wing attack? Attack in the center. Attack in the center. So here we go. There it is. There's the attack in the center. Knight goes to E8 now. Yeah. Okay. Again, a pawn move. And again, the knight goes back. The white pawns have just made that knight into a whimpering ninny, right? And maybe I'm wet behind my ears. Yeah, there is no other place. Yeah, isn't that amazing? There's no other square than I can go to. Wow. I mean, that is really excellent pawn power that we're seeing from Rubinstein. The pawns are just, of all people, Frank Marshall, they're just manhandling that knight. Yeah, he can really go nowhere else. And now the bishop to G3. And you say, well, okay. He moves back. What does he uncover? What does he give access to? Yeah, the F rook. Remember, the pawns pushing, you want the pieces behind them supporting. That F rook is vastly more important to have communication with the pawn, because that's Rubinstein's signal. That's Rubinstein's signal saying, yo, Bubba, I'm coming to visit you, and this is not to give you Christmas gifts. This is the Greek gift. not really with the bishop, but this is the bad one. So here we go. Bishop G3, get the bishop out of the way so the rook can help do his job. Queen A4. Okay. See the magnification of the power of the queen, and how, because it's now together with the rook also becomes seriously dangerous because that combo queen and rook right there, yikes. So, so, uh, we really gotta find a way to help protect this queen side. If you had a chess instructor, they would backhand you. Incorrect philosophy and a lousy move. I don't care that it is true. You really do got to protect your pawns. No, not that way. One, you're reacting, and two, it's a passive defensive. Obviously, you have to make tough choices in chess, right? This is a tough choice. You know, I don't, but I don't want my whole queen side destroyed. But you're not going to waste your time saving it. So let it go because you really do have serious potential here. Why take all your good resources and put them over here? Right? So you got to make a choice. Sometimes you got to let something go. And this is a magnificent move. Look at the power of the queen from here. Now, look, giving up on protecting, and of course, the pawn is an attack, but it has nothing to protect it right now. But look at how every square up this diagonal, that queen's power magnifies and grows in conjunction with the rook. Watch out, black owns the queen side. Just observe the power of bringing your pieces together in toward the enemy territory. This is good. This is really good. So Rubinstein, rather than, oh, well, I've got to protect it. I've got to protect it. I can't afford to lose it. Watch what Rubinstein does. Absolutely exquisite. Attack to the bishop, and I am not here to confess my sins. I stay on guard. You may be 6'5", 300 pounds, but I am a pawn magnificent. Attack you? Just shuts the bishop down, right? Seriously, shuts him down. Bishop goes to, now, oh, but Marshall, come on, Frank Marshall, one of the best. His games are so fun to watch. But this, oh, no. You gotta protect the king. Here we come, walking down the street. There's 4 of these guys coming after him. So don't abandon your king because you can't come back here now and try to protect him. That little pipsqueak will take you. Yeah, he went to the right direction. F8. So, bing, Queen G4. Observe. Not a bad spot here, but a better, more powerful, and closer to the king. I mean, the queen can't attack the king from this far away. How are you going to attack the king? You can't even get to it, right? I mean, you can go to here and you're still not attacking the king, but you got an option to if you was to do that. And here you're closer. Good move. It's so good that now he's got to go here. Gotta bump the pawn, which in turn creates dark square weaknesses. That's what we love to see around the king. And you say, well, yeah, but BYP, this guy pushed his pawns a long time ago. All of the squares in front of his castled king are weak. Are they? Look what he did. Yeah, I agree. He pushed his pawns like crazy. Look, there they are. But he replaced them with the pieces. That king is not weak. Do you see any black pieces anywhere near that king? Criminy, no. That king's not weak. There's your hint. If you're going to throw the pawns up, and that's not a bad idea, after seeing this game, I might do this, but make sure you put the pieces in here. Good stuff, man. This is fun stuff. G6 had to happen. Whoa! E6, and that got an exclamation point. So you created dark square weaknesses, put in the pawn. Well, heck, come on. They're buddies. They've been on this hike through the gorgeous Catskill Mountains for the last several moves. Keep up with him. Push the pawn, which attacks the F pawn, which can help crack open the king. I mean, if you're going to push pawns, push them, right? Because you do have the backup of the pieces. You really do. So keep going. Go, push them. Nice stuff. So, Black says, yeah, well, I've got something I'm going to do too. And notice that it does pull a rook back to attack, or a knight back out of the attack side to start saying, now, wait a minute. I'm not going to let you get away with that for too long. And the rook goes. Now you can see the deadly combination of rook and queen. The queen side is owned by black. And watch out, it's very easy to attack white now. Right? I scoff at the danger. I'm not worried at all. Check to the king. Not only check, but a nifty little fork on the knight, who is one of the guardians of the king. What do you do? What do you do? Well, the king is his majesty. Get over here, you little squirt. Blap. Up with his head. Eliminate the pawn, but it does shift the position of the king. It also does shift the strength of this king's side now. Because now one of the support pawns is gone. King is more vulnerable. Let's see what happens. Now. So the knight was G2, right? Far away from the king. But he came over to here, not in order to attack the rook. He knew the rook was going to take the pawn anyway. Rubinstein has left the queen side to Marshall, but in order to come back up to E3, whom now, I meant F3, and now the knight will take that pawn. Knight takes the pawn. The pawns have done a superb job. Observe where the bishop is. He's not up here. He's utterly almost powerless. Observe where the knight is. He's way back here too, although he is a good guard of the king now. But it's a defense, not an offense. And I'm not saying being on defense isn't bad, but you got to make sure you have enough defense. Let's do the counting. Again, let's do the math. You split this board down the middle. You've got two pieces protecting your king. Whoa. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Double the pieces, and one of them's the queen. She's the strongest piece. So this attack should be able to succeed. Fundamentally, hands down. Blap. Knight G5 check. Here we go. King comes over to G7. Okay, catch your breath. Catch your breath. Again, the mathematics gives us the superior position. 1, 2 against 1, 2, 3, 4. And these have been creeping up. They're getting closer to the king, so they are much more dangerous than these guys. Okay? 4 to 2, with the queen being one of the 4. This gives us a superior position. And one of my favorite sayings of Bobby Fischer, from a superior position, tactics flow. Watch what Rubinstein does. And this got him an exclamation point. Rook takes 6. Kablam. Massive, wonderful, down the exchange sacrifice, because it got rid of a very good defender, and you still have the best attacker in the chess game, the queen, and you've got the bishop, and you've got the knight. So the rook getting rid of the knight is a superb exchange sacrifice. Marshall knows it. I bet about this time he was going, son of a gun, I hope I can pull off a swindle. I really need to somehow get my queen back here. I got to do something here, because notice whose attack has stalled. He's had nothing to do. He's taken 2 pawns with the rook. That's all he got done, right? And all of these guys went over that way, and they're going up toward the king. So there's nothing doing here. It failed. You got to scoot back over. Do you have time? Oh, no, this is the principle in chess. When you decide to do either a king side attack, or if your side of the board is the queen side attack, once you begin the attack, that's it. That's the plan. You do nothing else. And the more forcing moves, the more powerful moves you can find, like that fantastic rook exchange sacrifice, the more of those you can find, the stronger your attack will be. But you find them one after another. You don't all of a sudden say, well, we're a little bit tired. Oh, gotta stretch, move around. Let's stop and cook a hot dog over the campfire. I think I'll come down here and go for a rest. That's not a good illustration. I think I'll come down here and go for a rest. Oh, heavens, no. No, you go relentless. You go relentless, which is what he did. He went queen f4 check. Notice he checked the king, the strongest forcing move, because now he's got to do something about it. Either block the check or get out of the check. Uh-oh. Marshall is moving away from his cover. Why would you go that way? Because here is the box. That's the trap. You've got the queen, the knight, and the bishop. You can't win if you go back into the box. His best hope is to flee over here and get these guys up to guard him. There is no other way. However, you do have the queen, and she is massive, powerful. Observe what I think is one of the coolest things. Don't go check. Just look at the difference. Just see the difference here. This is so cool. Now, it is a forcing move. I absolutely agree. And yes, he has to address that and do something about it. Move the king out of check, of course. But coming straight across is a much weaker move. Down there. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, the queen there is El Machoina. She is La terrible madame. She will tweak your nose. Yes, tweak your nose. King D8. It's curtains. So you brought your army, your pieces into the fight, right? True, your queen is the strongest piece, correct? But don't leave your other pieces out of the fight. That's a waste of time. You brought them, put them to work. You're not paying them to sit around cooking hot dogs over the open fire at camp for you. No, you get on your horse and ride with me. Yeah, check. And here he resigned. Because, of course, look at the bishop. Yeah, he's far away, but he's got this guy. He's got this guy. Yeah. If he was to move here, you've got a quick, easy mate. Observe how much faster he could checkmate because he came up and across instead of staying out here, taking a pawn, continuing to check, coming up here, and so on. You can't anyway because the bishop, but so just go right at it and go to it. So there's your chess game. Thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Chess videos. They're a lot of fun to make. I appreciate all your support, your love, and your cheer. And by the way, today is my birthday. I'm 29, and I've been holding there for decades. So here is my birthday gift to all of you, my fans, and those new people who have been coming in and watching the chess videos and enjoying them. So thank you all for everything you do for me. I hope someday I can return all the goodness back to you. In the meantime, remember, be good, do well, have fun, make lots of friends, smile hard and happy and fast. It makes people wonder what you've been up to, and tell a dumb dad joke every now and then. That's what I've been doing on my video shorts. And celebrate your birthday. Tonight, I have to confess, it's probably a sin, but it's okay. I'm going to sin anyway. I'm going out to eat. Oh my gosh, we're actually going to go splurge a little bit at a restaurant. And it's stormier and colder and snowier than I'll get out. And I defy the elements because I want to celebrate, dance to the music. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, well, that's it. Now you know why I didn't become a rock star. All right, you guys. Hey, thank you for everything. I love all you guys. You're awesome. We're having fun. We're learning more. We're seeing some fantastic games. And I've got boatloads more for you coming up. Just stick with me, man. Have a good evening.